It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of the Steelers Afternoon Drive. I am Zachary Smith. That is, of course, Alan Saunders. And Alan, I must say, you've never looked better. The backdrop is beautiful. It looks great out there. I just love the fact that we got boots on the ground at training camp, that we are finally here. How we doing?
I'm great, man. I was actually just walking over here and I was looking over to my left is the softball field dugout where I recorded, I think, most episodes of this, our first year. And great to be back, man. I love training camp. I love it here. I love doing this podcast when I'm here. It's fun. I'm excited.
About 500 episodes ago, an episode was recorded in that very dugout. So
there you go.
Very cool. Come full circle. Move-in day at training camp, so not a lot going on in terms of actually the players doing and stuff, but obviously getting to hear from some of the guys is great. Getting to hear from Omar is great. Getting to hear from Tomlin is great. And that's where the takeaways come from and what this episode is really going to be about. To be quite honest with you, Alan, I kind of want to just dive right into something that came out of this with Isaac Seumalo going on the NFI list. Was this something that we knew was coming, or did this just become news when it left Tomlin's mouth, or what do we make of this?
Yeah, I had no idea about it until Tomlin mentioned it. Seumalo was around during OTAs, but did not participate, so that tracks that he's injured. You know, they don't have to announce injuries during OTAs like in this way, but he NFI list just means that he hurt himself not playing a game or at a team practice. You know, it was at home working out or doing something on his own or whatever. And so Tomlin did not give the impression that it is serious. I will note that Tomlin has done that in the past, and that has turned out to be a thing that goes on and on. But he did not say he had a time frame. And that he did say that Spencer Anderson will work with the first team in place of Seumalo, which is not a surprise at all. Spence did that last year when Seumalo had, it was a pec injury in the early part of the season. Anderson started the first 3 games of the year. So, not a no shocker there, but it was definitely a surprise. You know, it's not like Seumalo needs a lot of training camp time. So as long as the kid's healthy for the regular season, shouldn't be an issue. Should he have to start the regular season on that NFI list, it works the same as the pup. So you're talking about a 6-week absence. So really, as long as he gets healthy by the end of training camp, I think everything's in good shape here.
You answered my follow-up question. I didn't know how different it was from the pup list in terms of...
Yeah, the only difference between NFI and pup is on pup, that means it happened during a game or during a practice. Yeah. And I think in the NFI list, they don't have to pay you your salary. Okay.
I got you.
Not that anybody gets paid here, but that, you know, it won't make a difference to him for the training camp time. No one is getting paid here, but it's the you know, for if he were to miss time in the regular season on that NFI list, it would not be paid his salary.
Okay. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, sticking with the Ooses, Fautanu fully healthy, ready to go when they jump into training camp practices tomorrow. Obviously, big news, and that's, I mean, they need a lot from Fautanu this year. They're expecting him to be the player that I think he can be, that you think he can be. DB is high on him as anybody. But obviously great news that he's going to be a full go when they kick off training camp practice.
Yeah, Big Goose is ready, man. He's been ready for a long time. I don't know that it was very realistic if he could have come back at the end of last season or not, especially as a rookie who played 1 game. You're not going to bring him back for the playoffs. But, like, he wasn't that far away. He's been pretty much ready to go since January. So he did reiterate that he is 100% full go for tomorrow. Great to hear. I can't wait to see him out there. Obviously, tomorrow is not going to be in pads, so, like,
yeah,
the offensive linemen, you know, for the trenches, first day of training camp is until next week. They just get some heat acclimatization. You know, that's all that's going on here. Making sure they don't bust a gut running around. So,
how did that go for you today in terms of the heat acclimatization?
I did a very good job last week on vacation of just sitting in the sun, preparing myself for this week. You know, it's very important that I do that, and I think also for tax purposes that then makes that a write-off because it was in preparation for work. I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to sound a little bit like a guy that got removed to his position in the NFLPA, trying to, say that things are write-offs and stuff. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Sorry, I had to find.
I
a
don't
way
think
to
there is no strip club in Latrobe, so that's thankfully not an issue here. You got to drive, I don't know where, but yeah.
No idea. No idea. I don't even want to find out what those are like either. But anyway, in that area. There's some conversation obviously we want to get to about Tomlin and Khan stuff. I actually, before we dive into that, because Nick Moore is going to come from that, find out about guys that you talked to today. You talked to Nick Herbig, talked to Juan Thornhill. Even Robert Woods, I think, would be interesting just because of the position that he's in with the receiver room that's kind of searching for that guy behind DK Metcalf to step up. So what did you take away from any of those conversations that you feel like stood out?
Juan Thornhill freaking hates Cleveland. That's the biggest takeaway I've got. Man,
some new ink, by the way, as well.
You ask that guy a question, it just goes straight to Cleveland. That's the whole conversation. It's like, Juan Thornhill, what do you think about this weather? Well, it's better than Cleveland. What do you like about the dorm digs here? Well, we didn't have this in Cleveland. No, I mean he didn't say those things, but he was asked a question about the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade and how surprised or not surprised or whatever he was by it, and he somehow took the answer to that question to, well, the people in Cleveland said I couldn't play, but I can make plays. Juan Thornhill has a chip the size of the state of Ohio on his shoulders about the way he's been perceived, and I think that's generally where you want your players to be right now. So I don't think Mike Tomlin's so upset about that. I just find it very amusing because if there's one thing you can do to endear yourselves to the Steelers fans in terms of what you're saying, I mean, just start crapping on Cleveland and you're one of us. Like that's the motto here. I mean, speaking of which, I think we need to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Just as a sidebar here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's them. It's perfect because it's them, right? I assume that you are alluding to just the whole unveiling of the helmet and then somebody falling into the water in the process of doing so.
The brown helmet sponsored by Dude Wipes.
Yeah.
So Dude Wipes,
I appreciate,
did take care of that floating brown thing in the lake, which is what Dude Wipes is for. I don't even dislike the Cleveland Browns. Like I think Andrew Berry's really good at his job. I think Kevin Stefanski's really good at his job. They're guys I have a lot of respect for. But just the franchise is sort of like a walking meme at times. You just can't help but be little Browns.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree about Andrew Berry and Stefanski, but it's just the move of Deshaun Watson, which was very much steered by the ownership over those two, has put them in an awful spot to the point where people think that they aren't as good at their jobs as they are. And if that move wasn't made, would be curious to see how different things would be in the conversation would be about those guys. I mean, Kevin Stefanski is a two-time coach of the year.
There's a conversation on Twitter the other day about Jerry Jones and not wanting to pay Micah Parsons. And Brett Coleman was like, yeah, well, just get insurance like the Browns did with Deshaun Watson. I was like, that is the first time I've seen the Deshaun Watson contract held up as something you should do. That's probably the first and only time. Maybe that piece of it was smart. They are getting or are expected to get some sort of cap benefit if he misses the entire year from their insurance. But what a mess. Just what a mess. But yeah, sorry. We'll get back to talking about the Steelers. But that was too funny to not bring up.
I mean, again, we just did exactly what Juan Thornhill would do. So it was kind of fitting. We turned the conversation that wasn't about Cleveland.
We did.
Into Cleveland.
We should turn it into a verb. We Thornhilled the conversation over to the Browns.
Yeah, I am just like the personality that he clearly brings to the table as well. He's one of the guys that I'm really looking forward to just how he, kind of embraces this process of training camp and stuff like that. The other one that I mentioned there, or one of the other guys I mentioned there was Robert Woods. And again, being a veteran in a room where there's DT's been around obviously, but there's just so much youth within that room and kind of looking for that guy. I don't in the role that he could serve off the field as well, but they're looking for something, and I don't know that he's going to be the guy that provides it, but I am curious as to what he had to say about trying to be the guy to provide it.
I thought it was really interesting the way he said he like prepares for this and sort of treats this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said like, you know, if you don't treat it like a competition between you and the guy ahead of you, then you're never then the guy behind you is going to get you. Right.
Yeah.
Like that was basically the gist of what he had to say. It's like DK Metcalf is the best receiver on the team. It's not even close. But I'm coming to work every day to compete with DK Metcalf. I'm not focused on holding off, I don't know who's down the roster, Scotty Miller, right? It's the other way. And so
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting thought process about the mindset and the approach. It's always weird when you're competing to cut a guy from your family, basically, right? Like that's what this training camp competition is all about. And so like you don't want the competition, especially within a position group. It's fine for the offense and the defense to get heated with one another, but you don't want the competition within a position group to become toxic because the ones you keep then have to be teammates, right? Like you don't want,
Yeah.
you know, upset feelings and things like that. So I think that perspective is really important, especially when you have a lot of young guys jockeying for, like Calvin Austin, I think, should expect to have a bigger role. Roman Wilson should expect to have a bigger role and has a lot to prove. So we'll see how things go. But, good old Bobby Trees. And Jalen Ramsey called him Woody, which I did not know
Oh,
was a
okay.
nickname. Obviously
Yeah.
familiar with the Bobby Trees moniker. I kind of
Mhm.
like Woody. It's
Yeah.
good. I dig
Yep.
it.
Well, there we go. That's it. I hope. I'm not sure how long we'll be able to use it. We'll see if he's able to crack this 53. But if so, Bobby Trees is out and Woody is in terms of what I'm calling Robert Woods. So, last one mentioned there was Herbig. Obviously, I'm curious as to what he had to say as well. He trained with TJ at Wisconsin. Obviously, that picture was put up and everything like that. They're very close. He's been kind of on his hip since he was drafted and stuff like that. But, you know, I don't know what the conversation was like. Is he expecting to have like the same role, more of a role? Like, what's it look like for him now being a vet?
I don't think we talked about his role at all, but he really talked about his relationship with TJ Watt. And I think this is
Yeah.
really
Well, there we go.
amusing, especially as someone who had a younger sibling. It's like when you first get your younger sibling, they're like a pain in the butt. They're like a leech that like attaches to your hip and you can't get rid of them, and they just want to do everything you do, and like it's kind of cute but also annoying. And then like as they get older and you get older, that becomes someone that, you know, that you can rely on, that it becomes more of a two-way relationship. And I think you can see, I mean, we talked here, I mean, when Nick Herbig was a rookie, he followed TJ Watt around like a puppy dog. Like he just lapped up everything that TJ was doing and saying and thinking. And now I think you can see where there's like some some counterplay in the relationship where like now Nick Herbig is a guy that TJ can rely on. And it was interesting to hear him talk about how like they were talking while TJ wasn't at OTAs and Nick was, and Nick was telling him, I'm doing this, and TJ saying, you should be doing that. Um, and they went and worked out together. And now I think when you like, they worked out at Herbig's place, you know, like it was not that like, oh, I'm following you around thing. It's like, yeah, come on, I got some stuff. I'll show you what I do. You know, and now it's more. It's obviously not equals because I'm not sure TJ Watt has one of those, but it is more like an equal footing
There's
relationship.
give and take as opposed to just take.
Yeah, right. And Nick brought TJ's e-bike to training camp because TJ didn't have enough room in his car. TJ did bring his car, by the way, which I was surprised. He has like a truck, but he brought like a little SUV. But I was wondering, like, is the $123 million man going to show up in like a Bugatti or a? No, it was like an Audi SUV. It's like a normal, no. Should not have been surprised by the total lack of flashy spending by TJ Watt. But Nick was talking about the day they were working out together where TJ got his deal done. He said in the morning they took that picture, they put it on social media. He didn't even know then that it was going to get done. It just sort of happened while they were working out. He was really thankful that he could be there with TJ for that moment. And, nobody's buying any dinners in the outside linebackers room anytime soon.
Did they do any? I don't know if he got asked about this, but like, did they do anything to celebrate being that he was with TJ?
I didn't ask that, but
Okay.
I'm sure TJ wanted to be with his family too, but especially
Yeah.
with the little guy. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay.
that's. I don't think TJ is the celebrate and get after it kind of guy. Like, I can't even imagine him like drunk. Like, I can't even like he's just so laced up always, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think he probably was like, all right, let's go do 10 more sets. Like, that was the celebration to me. Uh, that's what I'm betting.
Mm-hmm. I actually like ran into him after the year that he won Defensive Player of the Year, like in the off season, and like congratulated him, and he was like, "For what? We didn't win anything." I was like, "Yeah, well." So that kind of tells you
That
right there.
100% tracks. That 100%
Yeah.
tracks.
All right, well, let's talk about TJ. He spoke today, obviously, for the first time since signing that contract extension. You mentioned the chip on Juan Thornhill's shoulder being the state of Ohio. The chip on TJ Watt's shoulder is like $123 million of a chip. I think that he feels very much the desire to pay this off and prove to people that he can play up until this contract expires when he's like 35 years old, play to that age. What did you take away from what he had to say?
Yeah, I think he's heard what people had to say, and I think he's angry about it. And I think he's very determined to show people that he's still going to be an effective player into his middle 30s. I'm not saying he's going to be Bruce Smith and play until he's 42 or whatever, 19 seasons. But,
Mhm.
I mean, if you didn't already think that, hearing a pissed off, motivated TJ Watt say, yeah, I heard it and I'm coming for it, should probably give you some feelings. He also said, I've been watching Cam Hayward do it, which I think is an interesting perspective. Is like, if I want to learn about how I need to change my game as my body ages, all I have to do is look over to the right. Like, I mean, and I think that's such a great point, is that you have to provide so much value. We talk about Cam Hayward as a mentor for a rookie. How about still being
Yeah.
a mentor for a guy who's been a defensive player of the year, being able to show him, hey, here's what you shouldn't be doing anymore. Here's what you should be doing now. Here's where you need to take it easy and protect your body. I do think TJ has a little bit of that, like, he will need protected from himself because he is so highly motivated and he always wants to do more, 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 more. And as you get older, it often becomes about doing more with less. About, oh, you can't work out
Yeah.
as often anymore. So how can you be more effective while doing it in smaller time frames and things like that? So having someone like Cam Hayward around to show him the ropes is going to be super valuable. I think that was such a point that TJ made that I never really thought about, and I don't really have any like I don't. So there's 3 years of guaranteed money on this contract, this year and the next
Mm-hmm.
two.
Yeah.
If TJ Watt doesn't get 30 sacks over the next 3 years, I'll be astonished. Like, I don't think, like, there's like a baseline of production that I think there is no chance he's falling below, unless he suffers some kind of major and unfortunate injury. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I those are unpredictable.
Right.
I did ask Omar about just the number of older players they've brought in this year, and if he, if that makes him nervous, he has concerns about. Does he feel like it's riskier to be bringing in so many guys that age? And he kind of brushed it aside. He said, it's a case by case basis, but I'm comfortable with the guys we got, and we do our due diligence, and we feel good about it. I was sort of expecting an answer there, and he didn't really give me one. He just kind of said, we're not worried about these guys.
So we can talk more about Omar in a second. I actually wanted to go back to TJ real quick though, just because I specifically, when talking about Cam, I didn't know if it was mentioned, like, because it almost feels like it was starting to be there. But if he was asked at all about, the speed to power conversion, because I think that's the big conversation, is a guy like the power is going to age better than that. The speed's eventually going to go away. So like the question with TJ is going to be, is he going to be able to be more of a power rusher when that speed goes away? And I didn't know if he got asked about that specifically at all.
He did get asked if he put on any weight this offseason, and he said
Okay.
no. I will say, I think he looks
Yeah.
bigger.
I would say from that photo, I looked at a side by side 1 year, like him and Nick Herbig when they trained in Wisconsin, like side by side 1 year apart. And I thought he looked bigger, like his upper half this year. But yeah.
But you can be the same weight and have less
Sure.
muscle or less fat and more muscle and be
Mhm.
stronger. I think he looks bigger. He said he didn't put on any weight, but I think that's coming. And I also think, and TJ did talk about this as well, that just if teams are going to run like quick game against you, you can't go around. Like fast doesn't work. Now that wasn't applicable in like the Lamar Jackson losses, but like when you look at what Patrick Mahomes did to the Steelers, you can't get around the edge in time to get to Patrick Mahomes when he's releasing the ball on time. You have to go through somebody. And I think he sort of seemed to be acknowledging that like it's not just size and strength, but changing up the rush plan a little bit to try to implement more power moves and more inside moves. I think one of the things that makes Alex Highsmith so dangerous is he goes inside and outside very flexibly. It seems to be very comfortable doing either. I think it makes him harder to block, and the inside moves get home so fast, and so I think there's some stuff there that I'm already tired of the. Are the Steelers going to move T.J. Watt around more? I swear I heard that question like 7 times today already. It's a piece of what they could be doing, but like it's not gonna magically fix anything. Like that's a part of it, but it can't be all. Like we talked at length about the schematic changes that we think need to come into play on the defensive side of the ball. That's like a thing you do 5 to 10 snaps a game as a changeup. That's not a real fix, in a way that some of this other stuff is. And I think changing up the rush plan, incorporating a little more power and not just speed is not only good for lengthening TJ Watt's career, but also very necessary for what the team needs on the field right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to Omar, when it comes to top brass, my rule of thumb is always to let the actions, I understand there's going to be some stuff that they say that's going to be important and the questions have to be asked, but typically with their answers, I'm like, let's take this with a grain of salt here. The actions are going to speak louder than the words. And typically like that's how I look at it, especially when it comes to like, hey, your outside addition's done. One, he can say what he's going to say. I'm not going to believe that that's.
And also like he could very well say yes. And then the phone rings and then they're not.
Right. But I wanted to ask about the not negotiating with anybody currently. I look at the likes of Calvin Austin, Jalen Warren, guys like that. I mean, Isaac Seumalo also in the last year of his contract right now. I was a little bit surprised that he just like would openly say that they weren't currently negotiating with anybody and not just like say, hey, we're going to keep those close to the vest or however he would word it. I wanted to see what you made of that.
I think he was just being honest there. There's no reason for him to not be. The other way, maybe. I think if we would have got the we're keep things close to the vest answer, that would have been a yes. But the no is fine. Yeah. I'm a little surprised they aren't negotiating with Calvin Austin. I think they probably should be. I think he will be much more expensive if they wait a year because I think he's going to get a lot of targets, and I think he's going to be really good with Aaron Rodgers. So that one's a little bit interesting to me. Jalen Warren, the writing was on the wall. They let him sign the RFA tender. They had the opportunity to do that negotiation in March, and they didn't. It kind of seemed like then that they at least wanted to see what they had in Caleb Johnson before they make a decision about Jalen Warren. And while I'm not sure I agree with that, I would have loved to extend Jalen Warren and just be done with it. I at least can understand the line of thinking. As I said, Malu, I thought
Calvin, like, why not, at least see where things are? It seems odd to me to not even like have that conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Maybe it's player driven. Maybe Calvin sees what we're talking about and says, you know what, I want to wait. I did talk to Calvin about it at OTAs very briefly, and he basically said, like, it hasn't even been on my mind. Like, it's not even something that I'm really thinking about. So,
that's fair.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Seumalo, I mean, would you expect anything there anyway? Because I'm kind of like,
I mean, Isaac basically told me at the Pro Bowl that he's not even sure if he wants to play in
no,
beyond 2025. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be slow playing that decision.
sure. As far as external options, the door was left open not only by Omar, but Tomlin asked about that as well. I mean, we knew that, right? And they're going to say they're comfortable with the rooms, but again, the actions speak louder than words. If you were comfortable with them, we wouldn't have the information that we do in terms of all the calls that they've made and turning over every stone that they are. So, I'll ask what you make of it, but I know the answer to this.
Well, I'm not sure because I think it's two different answers. I get the sense that they are absolutely looking to add a wide receiver, and we should know that. We know they called Green Bay. We know
Yeah.
they called, some other teams. We know they brought in
Okay.
Gabe Davis, right? You didn't bring in Gabe Davis because you were happy with your wide receivers. Like I called BS. However, at safety, we have none of that information. So if they are looking for a safety, they're doing it awfully quietly. I
Yeah.
think there is some truth to the idea that they are waiting to see how this mix with three outside corners all playing at the same time actually works before they go out and get another safety, because they might have to move somebody to safety if they can't find a way to get all three of these guys on the field at the same time functionally, right? Somebody's going to have to be the slot. We talked to Mike Tomlin about it, and somebody asked him and said, "You can call them what you want to call them. They're coverage players." But okay, thanks, Mike. But like in the real world, one of them has to be a slot corner. If the move to slot corner for one of those guys or for some combination of those guys doesn't work, then they got to go to safety or they're not going to play. And that's sort of untenable when you're paying Slay $10 million. You traded what you traded for Ramsey. Like that, he's probably the best of the three. Porter's a guy that you're building on long term. So they have to. I do think there's some like intentional hesitation about let's see how it looks first and then decide where we want the move to make. They might get out there and be like, Jalen Ramsey can't cover in the slot anymore. He's gotten older. Safety's actually where he belongs. And if the Steelers want to make an addition, it's not Justin Simmons, it's Asante Samuel, right? Because now you think, oh, it's actually the slot that is the big hole because Ramsey's just now at this point in his career, he's just a safety. I think they're still working through some of that, especially considering the recency of the addition. They haven't seen any of those guys in the field. They've seen Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson out there a whole lot. In fact, they saw Robert Woods and Brandon Johnson with the first team in OTAs. So they know they need wide receivers. And I understand Omar has to say what he has to say, but they're looking for wide receivers. However, I also don't think a move is imminent. I get the sense they're probably going to wait until cut down time unless something that I don't see right now changes. I don't think they're that into the free agents. Maybe they would like Gabe Davis if he could prove to be healthy, but he hasn't been able to do that yet. So unless something like that changes, Davis is like, hey, I can pass the physical now. Okay, maybe. But otherwise, I think they're going to wait until the end at receiver. Safety will probably be very much determined by what happens on the field behind me over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, good point there in terms of like, we haven't heard a peep about, safety additions externally. Like, I know last year Julian Blackmon was a guy that they had liked. He was available again to them until yesterday, whatever it was that they finalized with the Saints, and nothing. They didn't seem interested in doing that. So yeah, we'll see, how much gets figured out on that field. And we'll determine if it's going to be an external addition to that room. Tomlin, talking about that group that we're talking about right now, was pretty definitive on the group of guys being starters, all of Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., but, kind of coy in terms of, and Jalen Ramsey was as well, in terms of like the alignment that we could see take place there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's coy for 24 hours. We're going to see it tomorrow. So like, whatever you want to do, guys. I don't care. But I do think it is going to be a little bit of playing Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay in some different positions and seeing how they look and seeing how they think the best way to get those three guys on the field is. And then once they figured out what they think the best way to deploy those three guys is, and Deshaun Elliott, those four are going to play almost every snap. Period. Then the question is, okay, where do the rest of the snaps come from, and do we feel comfortable with who we have taking them? Is it in the nickel? Is it at safety? Is and then do they feel good about Thornhill? Do they feel good about Beanie Bishop, Brandon Eccles, Dante Kemp, whoever they want to put in those situations? Corey Trice. We'll see.
Okay. Other than that, was there anything that came from Tomlin you felt was
nothing that I feel like we absolutely have to talk about. Yeah, I mean, it's got a good answer from him about the culture of the team and bringing in guys that are more experienced players that are not just your normal additions. I think guys like Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Ramsey have a cultural impact on a locker room that is outsized compared to signing, your standard Malik Harrison, right? It's different. And but he says he doesn't approach it differently. And he says this is one of the reasons they love being here at St. Vincent, because they all have to come together, and they're sort of forced to be a team. There's nothing else to do, and there's nowhere to go. And as we covered earlier, no strip clubs to write off your union expenses for.
Yeah, at least not right there. But all right. Real quick before we get out of here, I do want to answer one of Randy Tobias's things here, just because it's more of your own setup here.
Gotcha.
He said, "Hey, Alan, at least you still have hair to cut. Not everyone can say that. Do you rent a house for training camp, or do they put you up in the dorms? What is the game plan when you are there, and how does everything work on your side?"
So until COVID, we used to stay in the dorms. After COVID, when they were kind of negotiating with the players to get them to come back after 2 years of having been able to sleep in their own beds at night, I think one of the things they agreed to was no doubles, and that left no room for us media types in the dorms here. St. Vincent is not a very big college. And so we are not allowed to stay on campus anymore. I have done both, rented a house and stayed in hotels. I think this year we're all in hotels. So I am only 25 minutes from home. It's not really a big deal for me to get back, but as you can attest to, the days are very long. When I get done here at probably 10 o'clock tonight, I'm just going to want to fall asleep and wake up and get after it again tomorrow morning. So, yeah.
I by no means want to make it seem like I was anywhere in the same space, but just being around you for those couple days and watching how it was for you, I felt like I would blink and it would be 9 p.m. So I can imagine. I would not want to make a half hour, even a half hour-ish drive back home after that. So I can't blame you. Yeah, we went to hotel room,
and it puts a big cramp on the after school activities. Yeah, that's the other part of it.
Absolutely. Well, Alan, if you can believe it or not, we're already over 30 minutes. So look forward to this conversation picking back up tomorrow and actually talk about some of the stuff going on that field. But until then, tell the people they can find you.
You can find me @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now sites account, SteelersNow.com. Sign up for SN Plus just to stick it to that one jerk who doesn't like the fact that we have a subscription part of our website in the comments section on YouTube lately. We're not allowed to sell a product here, man?
Was there something? Was there something else?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going on and on. Just prove it to that guy that you're with us, you support us, you're part of the team. And sign up for SN Plus. Then come to the Subs Only live stream in August, where that guy won't be invited. And you also get the ad free over at SteelersNow.com. All the best content from me, DB, the whole gang. And of course, anyone can subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. Before we get to the number, also you can find me on the DVE Morning Show tomorrow at 7:45 if you are in Pittsburgh, or you can stream it. So that'll be fun, talking about training camp.
There we go.
Love going on DVE. That's one of it. I go on the radio all the time, and it's not a big deal. but the DVE morning show still feels like a big deal to me.
That's what I was going to say is like, that's what my dad would think of. Like, if I ever made an appearance on the WDV morning show, my dad would like probably cry tears of joy, get that audio and like play it as like his ringtone or something like that. Like, that's what my dad thinks of when it comes to radio, is the WDV morning show. So, yeah, there you go. Look forward to that. Subscriber count 16,000 and Deuce Staley today.
Oh, 22. I'll go John L. Williams. Fullback action.
Okay. When was that?
93, 94?
Okay.
95, maybe even. Was he on the Super Bowl team? He might have been on the Super Bowl team. He was definitely on the 94 team because he was open in the end zone when Neil O'Donnell threw it over the middle and it got knocked down by the Chargers linebacker and the Steelers lost in the AFC Championship game at home. I don't remember if he was on the 95 team or not, but good player for the Seahawks, came over in free agency at the end of his career.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah, so like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hit us in the comments your thoughts, anything we talked about today, your favorite number 22 in Steelers history, questions for future episode, all that good stuff. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe over there. I've been checking. We need more of those, so be sure to do that if you are listening over there and not watching here on the YouTube channel. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.